Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm Mitch from BD Audio, where we like to dyno amps down under. On today's episode, I'm going to show you the one tool you're going to want to have in your toolbox. And guess what? It's neither of these. It's this. This looks after the same job as the other ones. Now, to explain what all of these are, this is a multimeter. This is good for measuring voltage, impedance, continuity, and resistance. There are obviously other factors to this that are used, but mainly in car audio, that's what we use this tool for. The one on the right is the SMD Distortion Detector. Again, some guys may have this, and essentially this allows you to check your RCA signals and tune your amplifiers so they're not clipping. So on the front of it, you will see you have a distortion light, a 1K Hertz detect, a 40 Hertz detect, a signal, low battery, and power. And I'm mentioning the low battery because these suck with battery. I'll put this on and you'll see that in a couple of seconds, low battery and dead. I barely use this thing, and no matter what happens, it's always dead anytime I try to use it. The one bad thing is they use 9-volt batteries. Just like this multimeter. This uses a 9-volt battery as well. These are a pain if you don't have them. Unlike AA batteries, AAA batteries, everyone has them in their house. 9 volts are not one of those things. Now, besides the battery issue, both of these do the job that they're intended to do. Some people have opinions on the SMD. To be honest, I've never really used it too much because the battery's always dead by the time I end up using it. But these each need their own unit, their own spot, their own location, tools, etc. This here combines these plus other features that these don't control in one small, cheap unit. This here is the Recoil MST-1. Basically, it is a audio tester that allows multiple different options. If I turn this on, we can go straight to the list. So your first one is tone generator, distortion detector, phase tester, AC and DC voltage tester, continuity tester, and resistance tester. Settings is just what language you want to set it at, whether it's English, Chinese, Japanese, etc. So there's no point getting into that one. But what we're going to touch base on today is every single one of these settings. Now, I will admit, this is quite a nice little package. Having the backlit display opposed to an old standard one, which are not very good to see at night unless you put a light on. Again, mine's probably not going to work because that's dead as well. But the screen is really nice. The fact that you don't have to worry about if you've got enough light or anything like that, you can always see it at any angle. The other great part of it, USB charge. So you can literally be in a car, and if it goes flat, you can plug it into the cigarette lighter and it'll work. No matter where you go, you'll be able to charge this. If you're out and about and there's no shops nearby, guess what? You can't use any of these because it's going to be impossible to try and find a 9-volt battery. This, plug it in. Most iPhones generally use USB-C nowadays. So again, first off, great start. So I'm not going to bother unboxing this because I've already had it. I've been using it for a while. But you do get a nice carry case. Reasonably hard. I wouldn't say it's solid, but it's reasonably hard. Your meter goes in one side, and then in the other side, you get an array of components. So here, you've got some standard sharp probes, but the main thing that I generally use is the alligator clip one, which is this one here. So turns from an RCA male into 2 alligator clips, which allows you to clip it onto the wires, clip it onto the amplifier, essentially touch it whatever you need to without having to worry about, oh, am I going to have to hold this and this at one time? And for the money, these are cheap. When you account what you pay for an SMD and a good multimeter, now again, mine's not amazing, but mine's about $50, $60 Australian. These aren't able to just buy off the shelf in Australia. You have to order these online. These can cost upwards of $200 to $300 by the time you get them imported. You need specific details. They don't give you much information other than just an LED. where this here is $199 Australian. So now we're going to go through each one of these settings and I'm going to show you what each of them do, starting off with the tone generator. Alright, so we're going to test the tone generator first. Nice and simple. In my case, I've just used the alligator plugs. Plug it in to the input side, which is the left side. Go into tone generator and simply hit the button. Now this speaker is not hooked up to anything. It is literally just on its own. And the purpose of this is purely just to see if the speaker works. And we're going to test this in a few different ways using this. But first off, tone generator, hit OK. And this plays all the way. I'm going to turn that off because it's probably quite loud. This plays from 15 Hertz all the way up to 10,000 kilohertz. So you can see, just by doing that, you can see that the coil works, everything moves, and that the speaker is working. And you can also do this with a subwoofer. Now this is probably more of a simple terms where you've got a door and the speaker doesn't work for some weird reason. Unplug the speaker, connect this to the speaker, and do that. That'll tell you if the speaker is working. Or if you're buying a subwoofer, by all means, connect it to the sub and off you go. The other way to do this would be if you're using it into an amplifier. If you have a head unit or an RCA issue, what you can simply do is take this out. Simply get an RCA, plug it into here, plug the other end directly into your amplifier and hit tone. That will essentially give the amplifier a signal to go to the sub. So again, obviously make sure that when you're set, because if you go straight in, this is going to send 13 Hertz signal to your amplifier, which means that your subs will work. The next one that we're going to test is the distortion detector. Now this can be used in two ways. One, you can plug your RCAs directly from your head unit into this to see at what volume your head unit distorts at. Some head units are really good and you can turn them all the way up and they won't clip at all. Some are really bad and you get to about half volume before the RCAs are clipping. The other way is by connecting it to your amplifier output and seeing where on the gain your amp clips. And I'm going to show you both of those examples now. So the first step is making sure that your head unit is flat. It's set to default settings. Next, you're going to put the USB into your head unit and you are going to make sure that it is on track 1 and it is playing. The two RCAs, the black one is for your sub. We are going to plug that one in, being that we are doing a 40 Hertz tune. The volume at the moment, you can see, is on 0. You may not be able to see. But what we're going to do is we're going to start increasing the volume. Now, I probably won't pick it up straight away because this has a very long volume bar. But as we start to increase that volume, you can see that it is now detecting that 40 Hertz tune. We'll zoom in a little bit for you. So you can see that that is detecting, and so far it's clean and putting out about 1.3 volts. And this is the other part that I like, opposed to this. It will actually tell you what your output voltage is, unlike the other one. So as we turn this up, currently we're at 45, 46, 47, and we're going all the way to 50. At 50 volume, which is maximum on the head unit, we're only getting 3.4 volt. Now this is a 3 volt pre-out head unit, so shouldn't be an issue there. And we can see even at max volume, this head unit is not creating any distortion. So now we're going to test the other one. So we're going to turn this all the way back down. We'll probably turn it down to about 30. Saves an extra couple of winds. We're going to take the sub channel RCA out and we're going to put the speaker one in. We're then going to change the track number to track number 2, which is 1000 Hertz. And we're going to start increasing again. You can see that that's starting to pick it up and it is detecting the 1 kilohertz. And as we turn this up, that is now max volume on the head unit. And you can see that it is distorting. So at max volume, it's distorting. If we go back 1 click, Still distorting. Go back another. And you can see I'm at now volume 47 and it is clean. So if I go back up one to 48 and get it to do it, 48. So that's now 48 and you can see that it is distorting. So this essentially would be sending a clip signal to your amplifier. So before your amplifier even clips, the head unit is sending a dirty signal. So I now know that my head unit, I should not play it any higher than volume 47. Even though my sub channel didn't clip, my speakers would be. Now I'm going to show you the distortion detector with the amplifier. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to plug in the RCA to the unit. Again, I'm going to be using the alligator clips. I'm going to connect the positive to the positive on the amplifier and the negative to the negative on the amplifier. I understand that this is a 4-channel, but we're going to be simulating as a subwoofer amplifier. We have changed the track to track 1 and we've increased the volume to maximum because we know that this signal at 40 Hz would be clean. We're going to turn the unit on because it times out. We're then going to go to Distortion Detector. We're going to give you a little bit more of a close-up here. So now that this is working, the head unit is providing signal. Now we don't need a load on the terminals. With these newer amps that have clip lights, yes, you are able to turn the gain up until you see the clip light. However, your subs do need to be connected to see a load. So you are going to stress your system, or potentially if you're very high dB, you're going to be copying 150, 155 dB while trying to set the gain. In this instance, the unit will act as a load and we have the gain on 0. We're going to slowly increase the gain and you will notice that the unit will eventually pick up and you can see that it is now detecting that 40 Hz signal. And as we increase the gain, you can see that the voltage is increasing and we're going to get to a point where it's going to then distort, just like that. So simply we need to just back this off a little bit until we see it clean. So right there would be perfectly fine. Now, some people do like a tiny bit of clip, so you could probably go right there on the cusp, which is regulating between 3 and 3.1 volt. But to keep it super safe, we're just going to back it off that tiny bit. Ever so slightly. And there we go. So now you can see that we're still making that 3 volt and it's clean signal. So I am now able to turn the head unit down and off, unconnect my unit, and this amplifier is now clean and ready to be turned up, knowing that whatever is connected to it is not going to clip. So now let's move on to the third function. So we're going to move on to the phase tester. What this is intended for is to ensure that your speakers and or subs are in phase. And what I mean is phase. When you have your subs connected, a positive to the positive, negative to the negative. Now, if you had another speaker and you weren't sure which one was the right wire, what you do is you get your tool, you put your USB in and you change it to track 3. You turn the volume up a little bit and you will hear it makes a very slight ticking noise. Now with that noise going, we're going to select and hold it. So you can see here, the first one is showing negative. And again, it confirms that it is negative. So what happens if you're checking a different way, or you're checking another speaker? So we're now going to check this speaker again, except I've swapped the polarity of the speaker terminal. So I've now got positive on negative and negative on positive. We hit so you can see it's now read positive. We'll do it again. So again, positive. So if you had one that came up positive and then you tested the other one and it said negative, it means that what will happen is one sub will push out as one sub is pushing in, which is not going to be great for sound. And especially in subs, if you had two subs in a box, one's going to push out, one's going to push in, and you're going to damage your equipment. Moving on to the next one. So the fourth function is going to be DC AC voltage. Simply click the setting and it will come up with your screen. Don't need one of these, so let's get rid of that. And here, we're just going to test it directly straight on the amplifier. Again, I've only got the alligator clips just because there's no point changing them. We're going to connect the positive to the positive and we're going to touch the negative. And you can see right there, we have 14.5 volt. That is the voltage tester. We're now going to move on to the next one. So next, we're going to check the continuity tester. What continuity is sending a pulse from one side of a wire all the way around to the other side to create a closed circuit. And by doing that, it allows you to tell if a wire has fatigue or is broken. In this case, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be testing RCAs. So first off, we're going to put the black RCA plug in one side, and we're going to put the black RCA plug in the other side. One is input, one is output, essentially. So it will create a closed circuit between these two. We're then going to select continuity tester. Now this here, the standard screen, is for wire, which is just using the probes to check one side of a wire to the other. We're going to hit across, which will then take you to an RCA. Now that these are connected, we simply hit enter, and we can see that it says pass. Now, for example, we're going to pretend that this red one is a black one. So we're going to put that in, and we're going to put the black one in, and we're going to put the pretend black one in. And we're going to hit that button again. And we can see that that would fail. Now, what that means is that from this side of the RCA, which would be the head unit side, to this side of the RCA, which would be the amplifier side, at one point throughout that RCA, there is a break between these two ends. So that's one way of using the continuity tester. And that's great for when you're checking RCAs. Before you install them in your car, they've been sitting in the garage for a while, you don't know if they're good. That's a great way to test them. Now, the other way to test this is to test wire. So for example, if you have an issue and your amp is not turning on for some reason, you would want to test maybe your remote wire. So we're going to pretend that this wire is your remote. Now, obviously you're going to need to be able to access both ends of it. So you may potentially need a longer lead than this or extend the lead. So you might have to run an additional wire from here to the front or the back of the car. But in this instance, we're just going to be using this. So what you will want to do is plug your plug into the input side. You're going to plug the positive on one end of that wire, and you're going to plug the negative onto the other end of the wire. That's it. This will now create a closed circuit. As you can see, it comes out of the unit, goes around and meets. So now that we've got that done, we're going to hit continuity and we're going to hit enter. And we can see that that passes. Now, if, for example, there was a break in that wire, just like before, if we were to test it, it would fail. So that's if maybe it's pinched somewhere or it's shorting out or something like that. That is a good way to test. if the wire is good. Now we're going to move on to the last test, which is a resistance tester. This here is great, again, for testing speakers, subs, etc. Now in this instance, I've got an Alpine 12-inch sub here. So what we're going to do, first off, you would have checked with the tone generator that it works. Great. But there's no markings on this. How do I know what impedance it is? I personally know that it's a single voice coil 4 ohm, but if you don't know, you're looking and there's nothing that tells you exactly underneath, on the bottom, there's a sticker, no? And you want to know what impedance it is. Simply plug your jack in again, plug 1 point to one side of the terminal. You plug the other side to the other coil. We're then going to go to resistance tester and we're going to hit enter. And would you look at that, 3.9. So we know that this here is roughly a 4 ohm voice coil. You can see if I press it a whole bunch of times, it reacts differently, but on a one-off test, it will work as intended. Obviously, because I'm moving the sub and everything like that, it works out the same a lot. So, in the end, should you buy one of these? Is it worth your money? I definitely agree. I think you should definitely replace your 2 multimeters, or essentially your digital multimeter, and your SMD distortion detector. Having 2 units into one with additional features is definitely an upgrade. When I first received this, I wasn't too fussed on it. I pulled it out once in a blue moon. Now that I've been getting a little bit more to know about how to use it, what you use it for, creating this video, I have used it so many times within the past week, I would definitely suggest getting one. But what do you think about this product? Do you have one? Would you like to get one? Are you thinking of getting one? Leave your comments down below. As always, guys, if you do like what we do on this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications. Thanks for tuning in. This is Mitch from BD Audio, where we like to dyno amps down under. I'm tuning out. See ya.